Whish-Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. My first questions are in reference to the ex-CEO of Guns Limited, John Gay's insider trading case. And when did ASIC refer the case to the Australian Federal Police for a proceeds of crime investigation?
Who would like to take that?
We don't have
take,
that information.
You want to take it on notice?
Yeah.
Mr. Savundra, do you want to?
Could you...
take it on notice, yeah.
Take it on notice,
Yeah.
okay. Could you explain why you referred it? Is it common practice to refer white collar crime to the AFP?
We'll ask Mr. Savundra to step up.
Sure, yeah, sure.
If that's okay, Chairman.
Absolutely.
So we can. Do you know exactly the date we referred it for the process?
I can happy to take that on
we
notice.
don't.
We'll take on this.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to respond.
So, Senator, in relation to insider trading matters, it is common practice to refer where there's been significant gains or alternatively losses avoided for proceeds of crime where that's available.
Okay. So did you personally refer it, or who in ASIC referred it?
The team that was handling the matter referred the matter to the AFP.
AFP. So were there discussions, and did you provide advice with that referral? How does that work? You just hand over a file?
We provide a brief. A brief can take various forms.
Would it be possible to get a copy of that on notice?
Senator, certainly not on a public basis, but perhaps on a confidential basis. But I would stress, Senator, that the matter is a live issue. The AFP is not the only...
Mr. Savundra, just for clarity's purpose, the Legislation Committee, when sitting at estimates, can't take information confidentially.
Okay. So, Senator, I think my answer would be no to that question. And particularly given it's a live issue, the AFP is not the only agency that can pursue proceeds of crime, conviction-based proceeds of crime. The Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecution can also.
So, in relation to the DPP, my understanding was did you use the DPP during the legal case?
We did. They prosecuted the matter.
And when
They always prosecute.
Yeah, they do. That was my understanding. From,
they always prosecute criminal. Yeah.
So then, it's not likely that they would proceed with it having been involved in the case directly and seen the judge's decision?
No, that's not necessarily the case.
So that it is still a possibility that they will proceed with. Okay.
Yes.
I think the thing with proceeds of crime, maybe you could describe some of the elements, and one of the elements is that you've got to determine whether there's any funds that could be gained, don't you? Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, or losses avoided.
Sorry?
Or losses avoided.
Or losses avoided. So, but there are elements there that you need to consider before you pursue it, correct? Do you want to just comment on that, Chris?
Yes, Senator. So
I think it's quite relevant, Senator, to whether you proceed or not with going proceeds of crime.
Okay.
And without commenting specifically on the matter, more generally,
I'll give you a general idea.
Two key issues is one that the relevant accused or defendant has the assets which are amenable to a proceeds of crime order, and the second aspect, which is often quite difficult, is the calculation of either the profit or the loss avoided.
So I'm glad you raised those 2 points. On that basis, was it worth handing it over to the AFP for a proceeds of crime case? Based on your information and your analysis and your experience with the court case?
Certainly, it is our view. Certainly, it's an iterative process in the sense that additional information may need to be obtained, but we would consult with either the AFP or the DPP in relation to what further information they would like or is necessary for us to proceed. So we handed over a brief containing the information which we had at hand, but obviously there is the ability for us to obtain further information should that be needed.
Did AFP contact you when they dropped their proceeds of crime, what do you call it, action, I suppose? Did they contact you and let you know the reasons why they didn't proceed?
They did contact us, and they did provide us with an outline of some of the issues in relation to proceeding.
Because I think what you just mentioned earlier about, you know, not being able to define profits and also the ability of someone under investigation or who'd been charged to pay was the reasons that they dropped it. But I just got the impression from you then that you thought there was a good reason to hand it to them for prosecution.
That's right, Senator, but those are two issues and issues which further inquiries would need to be made in relation to.
The third issue that concerned me, and I suppose it'd be interesting to know when you referred it to them, and I did ask the Australian Federal Police this yesterday. The main thing that they mentioned to the media was that it was the time taken from the arrest, the time that they began the investigation was one reason they didn't proceed. So it was too long since the time, too much time had elapsed, I suppose is a better way to describe it. Now, I understand they've only been doing these for 18 months, but it seems to me that that's a technical point and disappointing for people who may have lost money or who wanted to see this issue pursued. And I also got the very strong impression from them yesterday that they said they were very frank, it was a cost-benefit analysis and they didn't see the point of proceeding, but I got the very strong impression that they didn't even read the court documents or look at anything in any detail at all.
Really?
No, that's my judgment I'm giving you, but I suppose the other reason that they explained, which you mentioned during the Senate inquiry, was that there may be ongoing prosecutions, but they talked about civil action.
So, Senator, there's not ongoing prosecutions, but proceeds of crime remains a live issue.
Right.
We are in a dialogue with the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions in relation to
we haven't given up.
proceeds.
You haven't given up.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Senator, I think it's important to distinguish civil forfeiture under proceeds of crime.
That is what I meant. I apologise. They said there was still civil proceeds.
So, sorry, our objective is to pursue whatever avenues we can to recover monies.
So one thing they pointed out,
To the best of our abilities.
Thank you, Mr. Medcraft.
On this particular issue, yes.
The other day in Sydney, you did mention that other actions were one reason that you didn't pursue it as ASIC, and at the time I was disappointed because I thought, well, you know, why would
we are very focused on pursuing it. But just a warning is that, you know, on this is that you always got to be aware that people can organise their affairs in such a way that assets cannot be reached. So you know that as well as I do.
I understand.
So,
I understand there's a risk that
we are pursuing it.
Is there a risk?
Be assured.
Is there a risk, Mr. Medcraft, if there is a civil action, for example, by shareholders, that if you do successfully prosecute, in this case, there won't be any money left over for creditors? Is that an issue that you take into account?
There is a risk, Senator. The proceeds of crime are returned to the Commonwealth.
To the Commonwealth, but not to people who may have been.
But again, the commonality is if you're looking to pursue a class action, the class action lawyers will have to consider whether ultimately there is the ability to actually get assets and recover. We sort of probably face a common issue there, potentially.
Okay, fantastic.